Welcome to Running Hot, Action Network's motorsports betting podcast. I'm your host, Nick Giffen, predictive analyst here at Action Network. And joining me, as always, my co-host, Stephen Young of Roto Grinders, better known as Stevie TPFL. And this week, we're previewing the Food City 500 at Bristol Motor Speedway here on Running Hot. Last weekend at Darlington, Denny Hamlin used a late pit stop to get out front and hold off dominant driver William Byron, Christopher Bell, Tyler Reddick, and the race's fastest car and driver, Ryan Blaney, who rounded out the top five. That gives Hamlin his second consecutive win. Some mixed bag on Darlington based off what I've seen on Twitter, but I thought for the first half of the race, personally, Stevie, I thought when it was hot and slick, the sun was out, I thought the racing was really good. And then once the clouds rolled in, it became pretty much a track position race unless your name was Ryan Blaney. What'd you think?
I think you nailed it right there. When it was hot and slick, we saw a lot of passing. We saw the fall off matter. When the track got a little bit cooler, track position was everything. I mean, Denny Hamlin did not have the best car and he won the race. He had the best pit crew, and we continue to talk about how important pit crew is. William Byron, Ryan Blaney, I think were the two best cars. I think Denny is just super happy to kind of sneak one out. I mean, he's lost a lot of races where he's been the best car over the years, but I thought the last run was awesome. I think the middle of the race was kind of so-so, and the beginning of the race was awesome. Yeah. So, I mean, overall, I don't think it was a bad race. I really tilted the, Kyle Larson's spin, but Bubba had nowhere to go. Larson thought that there was going to be a wreck right in front of him. Hit the brakes. Bubba had nowhere to go. That's just racing at Darlington, So, and it's when you're 150 laps down or whatever it was, you don't want to be a factor. So, I mean, I feel like Larson probably felt terrible, but I mean, Ryan Blaney on that last run, I got him right before the restart at 9-1 to win the race live. And I was like, he's going to catch these guys. And he did. And man, I tilted that a little bit, but you can't hate on Bubba or Kyle Larson for what happened there. I saw a lot of hate about, Bubba spun him on purpose. Not even close, man. Larson hit the brakes. Bubba had nowhere to go. Get off of Bubba. He continues to run really well and do awesome things. People just need to chill out.
Yeah, exactly. You tilted that last caution. I tilted the Brad Keselowski caution. That one shook everything up for me. I was looking good on a lot of my bets up until that caution hit. Brad Keselowski was one of my drivers. I ended up betting over the weekend. So tough race for me on the betting front simply because of that, but felt very, very sharp about the analysis. So that's just the way those things break. But we're on to another steeply banked track this week, Bristol Motor Speedway for the Food City 500. Bristol, a little longer than a half-mile track, kind of like Martinsville, except it's a little bit of a shorter, stubbier, I shouldn't say shorter, but more of like a stubbier style oval. Still a true oval like Martinsville, but Martinsville has longer straights relative to the 180 corners, tighter radius. Bristol's corners, not quite as tight a radius, concrete track, and steeply banked. So very different short track from Martinsville. So definitely not really using Martinsville as a comparison there. But Stevie, talk about racing at Bristol.
It's funny. It's like our 2.5 mile tracks are they're like 1 in 32. Like you don't want to even come close to comparing either one of them. I mean, racing at Bristol is awesome. We're getting PJ1 again this week for the first time in I think 2 or 3 years. So, hey, I'm all for PJ1 at Bristol because 2-lane Bristol is by far the best Bristol. So I'm all for it. When we get the top going, about 250 laps into the race, we see incredible racing at Bristol. I mean, until the top really comes in, the bottom should be dominant with the PJ1, but it's a steep racetrack. Tire wear, nowhere near what we saw last spring, I hope. The resin just shedded tires, and we saw rubber just everywhere, and after 30 laps, people were breaking down because of the tires, and it was a wild race, and then we came back in the fall. It was a very normal Bristol race. So I'm hoping for a very normal Bristol race. I don't like all the uncertainty that we had last spring, and it's the same tire we've had here since 2023. So I think the racing at Bristol, when it's the 2-lane racetrack, is some of the best racing we have in NASCAR.
Yeah, I agree with that. And Normally, this is where we're going to talk about comparable tracks, but you kind of mentioned it, so I'll jump ahead here. That tire, I don't know if it was debacle, but definitely the tire major wear issues. Um, it was wearing down to the cords really quickly after 50, 60 laps, some of these runs, especially earlier in the race. Uh, that makes analyzing at least this particular Bristol race tough because it's like the outlier among all the Bristol races under the current Bristol configuration. So when we talk track history, how much are you weighing track history overall, and how are you factoring in the fact that this particular race last year was so oddball compared to all the other Bristol track races?
Yeah, I mean, I'll definitely favor the fall race from last year the most, and then look at 2022, 2023 way more than the 2024 one race. We look at that race even with a ton of tire fall off, and I mean, we still saw the drivers that are good at Bristol be good at Bristol, but it was really like who's going to be good for the first 15 and who's going to be good for the last 15 in that race. So I won't use a lot of the data from last spring. I think it was an outlier race, so I'm looking a lot more the fall race and 2023's fall race because I mean, last year was the first time that we didn't run dirt here in spring since I think like 2021 or 2020. So I'm
Yeah.
glad the dirt is gone. Concrete Bristol is the best. If we're gonna run a dirt race, go run a dirt race on a dirt track. But yeah, I mean overall, as far as your question, I will use track history. I will not weigh last spring race very heavily.
Yeah. So when trying to build a sample size, how else are we evaluating Bristol? Any comparable tracks or anything like that? Or is it so unique that you kind of just have to use Bristol?
I mean, we could use Dover a little bit. Not the best like comp. I like speed. You know, who's been
Mhm.
fast this year? Who's been good on pit road? Those are two factors always for me. Pit road is always really important at a racetrack where you could lose a ton of time and a ton of spots on pit road at Bristol. If you have any kind of issues during your pit stops, and track position matters so much here. So I like pit road data, but I mean, 2025 speed, who's been fast? One thing that we didn't really talk about with Darlington, but when it was hot and slick, the JGR cars were awful last week. So it's definitely something to put in the back of our mind when thinking of those types of races down the summer here and how they can kind of get better. But yeah, 2025 speed, recent track history, a little bit of Dover data. But I mean, comp wise, Dover's really the only comp that I like. I'm sure you might have something else that you like comp wise because, you like that kind of stuff.
Yeah, no, I mean, definitely Dover. I've always found crazy enough that Dover and Richmond had a little bit of correlation with Bristol, which sounds absolutely ridiculous for Richmond to correlate with Bristol, but it weirdly enough has. I don't know what the explanation for it is, other than maybe you got to move around as your tires wear, and that second groove comes in at Bristol could be like moving around at Richmond. But I'm mostly just using Bristol track history for sure. So I'm right there with you. I think you can pull in a little bit of Dover, and then obviously just speed overall this year. How fast have you been? Those are the main metrics I'll be looking at as well. Any other things to look at here at Bristol, Stevie?
I mean, we say it every week. Every racetrack we go to, practice is so important. So they'll turn a lot of laps at Bristol in practice because it's a short track and they get plenty of time. So long run speed in practice will matter a lot. Who can kind of maintain, and these cars are so close together when it comes to just overall speed that track position and practice speeds matter. Seeing how the PJ1 takes to the track in the truck race and the Xfinity race, how long it takes for the top to come in those races. So I think all that stuff matters. But early week betting, we're looking more at recent speed and recent history. When we get into Saturday night, Sunday morning betting, we have a lot more stuff we can look into. You and I talk about this every single week, but it's good to remind people.
Yeah, absolutely. So, pit stops, practice, those things are typical intangibles that we'll be looking at. You want fast pit crews, you want a good practice session, and you want recent form. So it's time to dive into the bets. We'll drive through the race stage by stage. Stevie and I will give a pick in stage one as our shorter odds bet. Then another pick in stage two for a little bit longer odds. And finally, we'll race through stage three and on into victory lane with our combined favorite bet. So it's time to throw the green flag on the Food City 500 and fire off for stage one. Stage one, Stevie, you are going to a guy that looks like he made a little bit of progress this past week, so that's been encouraging. Where are you going with stage one?
Yeah, I'm going to go to Ty Gibbs for a top 10 here, plus 115. He was like a staple top 10 bet for me towards the end of last season, beginning middle. I bet him a lot. Bristol's a really good racetrack for him. In every series that he's run here, he's been really fast. And last year in the tire debacle, like he was the fastest car, and then the tires would fall off and he'd kind of go away. And then we came back here in the fall and he was really fast. And then at the end of, I think it was the end of stage one, he got a pit road penalty and just fought back the rest of the day. So it was a really tough day for him. But he still ended up finishing 15th in that race. And I mean, when we're looking at coming through the field and finishing 15th, finished 9th in the spring, speed wise, he has plenty of speed here. He was one of the fastest cars here in 2023. So I hope that we can kind of trust that like the team is moving in the right direction. When you have, we'll call it how it is. He's Joe Gibbs' grandson. He's struggling. Like they're going to put extra effort into this car. Joe Gibbs doesn't want to continue to hear all the stuff that he's been hearing. So I think this is a good racetrack for them to have a top 10 day. I don't think they have like race winning speed yet, but I think top 10 day is a good step forward, and getting it at plus money, I think is a good early week bet here.
Yeah, so Ty Gibbs for a top 10 finishes Stevie's stage one pick. And, I definitely agree with you. I don't want to take like upside here on Ty Gibbs, but he did grab a 9th place finish at Darlington this past week, his first top 10 of the season. And honestly, his first top 10 in a while, quite a while there. So Ty Gibbs looking for a top 10 finish there at plus 115 for Stevie. I'm going to go to a top 10 bet as well. But I'm going to go over to a guy I somehow keep betting, and that's Ryan Preece. I'm going to go top 10, plus 150 at DraftKings. And, hey, the last time we were here, Ryan Preece got a top 10 finish. He finished 7th in the playoff Bristol race. And if we look, even in the tire debacle race of last year, he finished 14th. The race prior to that, which was spring 2023, playoff 2023 race, finished 12th. And he has a 9th place finish here back in 2020 in the Gen 6 car with JTG Doherty Racing. So this is a good track for Ryan Preece. He's running here a ton in the modifieds. So this is just a spot that I really like for him. And now he goes to RFK. And RFK has had some amazing setups here for Bristol. We remember the year Chris Buescher won at Bristol. I think it was 2022, the first year of the next gen. Brad Keselowski top 3 last year in this race. And Keselowski honestly was competing for the win in the race that Buescher won as well. So RFK has been very strong at Bristol in the next gen era. And now you add in Ryan Preece, who has a great track history here with those RFK cars. I actually have this closer to like 45% for a top 10 finish, and 40% would be break even at plus 150. So give me Ryan Preece top 10 plus 150.
You can get this if you're in a Hard Rock state, it's plus 195 for a top 10. Because I just bet it. I was on the fence on betting this because I'm with you. I like Ryan Preece a lot. I like the RFK cars a lot. Preece won in the Xfinity series here in 2018 with JGR. It was one of those races that like he funded himself to excel his career in the NASCAR world. So it's a really good racetrack for him, like you mentioned, speed-wise. I mean, he's top 10 in speed in the 3 races that he's run here. Finished outside the top 10 last year in the spring race with all the tire stuff. But like you said, in the fall, he was really good. And we know this is an upgrade in equipment for Ryan Preece. RFK, we saw with Justin Haley last year, getting help from RFK, how good he ran. This is just a really good spot for him. So I'm with you on Preece. I was really hoping that like we opened the books this week and like Ryan Preece was like 40 or 50 to 1, and they're like, that's not going to happen. But
No.
I'm with you on this one. I just bet it as well, so I'm going to tail you on Ryan Preece top 10.
Yeah, so if you have a Hard Rock up in the plus 190 range there on Ryan Preece, plus 150 at DraftKings, there's a couple other books that have them closer to even money, plus 110, things like that. I wouldn't go that low, but anything or above like plus 125, plus 130, I think is certainly a go. We're still waiting on some books to release top 10 odds as well. So if you want to gamble a little bit and wait and see, maybe MGM or FanDuel give longer odds as well on their top 10s for Ryan Preece. But hey, I like it right now at plus 150 as we're recording this. So that is my stage one pick. So to recap stage one, Stevie Ty Gibbs top 10 plus 115. And I have Ryan Preece top 10 plus 150. If you have Hard Rock, get it at the plus 190 range. So we're going to throw the green and white checkered on stage one, fuel up, get some tires, and fire up for stage two. All right, next pick here for you, Stevie, in stage two. Another top 10 bet, another RFK car. What do we have?
Yeah, I mean, you kind of nailed it when you were talking about Priest on how good RFK has been here. So I'm going to take Buescher for a top 10 at plus 130. This, by my model, this is like one of the best value bets here early in the week. And if we look at speed, Buescher ranks 5th and Keselowski ranks 4th at Bristol with the next gen era. So they struggled a little bit here in the fall. I mean, they were pushing really hard in that race, so I'm not too concerned about that. But if we look at the 4 races here with the next-gen car, he's finished inside the top 10 in 3 of those 4 races. He's finished inside the top 15 in all 4. His fastest laps are incredibly good. His laps led are there, his average running position, all the stuff that we like, quality pass percentage, driver rating, it's all high. I mean, this guy, he realistically should be like minus 125 for a top 10. So the fact that we're getting him at plus 130 is a huge value bet here early in the week. I'm not waiting on this one. I'm not waiting for qualifying. Buescher's good at qualifying, so I'm in on Buescher. You and I already talked about, how much we like Buescher, and we'll hear Buescher's name again here in a few minutes. But yeah, I mean, Chris Buescher top 10 plus 130 is my stage 2 pick.
Yeah, right there with you. I think Chris Buescher for a top 10 finish. Chris Buescher just in general, one of the drivers I always look to when we're coming to Bristol, and just absolutely a great spot here for Chris Buescher. He's been performing well. RFK's been performing well. Even Brad Keselowski turned it up at Darlington this past weekend, which was good to see. Obviously, bad result with the lug nut coming off, but Keselowski was very fast. He raced his way from 20th starting position into the top 5 or 6 or so when he came into pit, and then had that issue during the green flag cycle. So right there with you on Chris Buescher. I love him. Love pretty much trying to find all sorts of Chris Buescher bets this week. I'm going to go a little different on stage 2. I don't know if you're going to love this one, but my model really likes this one. It's surprisingly high on one of the drivers here. So for my stage 2 pick, I'm going to go with the winning team, 2311 Racing at 16-1. If we look at the 2 drivers, so I should say the 3 drivers, but really the 2 drivers on 2311 that can win, Tyler Reddick and Bubba Wallace. Bubba ran 3rd most recent time we were here. Bubba Wallace, this is another solid track from pretty much everywhere these days for Bubba Wallace, has been a solid track. So, I really like getting Bubba Wallace. I still think he continues to be undervalued. And so, Bubba Wallace 3rd at Bristol, anything can happen. Bristol is one of the least predictable tracks. When I build a model for it, I can only get about 35%, maybe squeezing close to 40% of the variance just by past data and things like that. So there's about 60% plus that's a finishing position that's just unexplained by variance. But Bubba, very good here. Like I said, finished 3rd, and then prior to that, finished 14th and 16th as his, 29th, but then a 16th before that as his runs here with 2311. Now, flipping over to Tyler Reddick, he hasn't been great at Bristol, but I think we all forget he has been great at Bristol, actually. He has a win in the Xfinity Series. His rookie year in the Cup Series, finished 4th here. So I think he's just had a little bit of some mediocre runs, and also, maybe a little bit of bad luck here and there. But this should be a track that profiles well for Tyler Reddick. And I think with the speed Bubba had last year, they can capture some of that. And if Tyler Reddick is happy, if the PJ1 shakes things up a little bit, this is definitely a spot I would like Tyler Reddick, because he's typically great at these steep tracks. And he has in the past, like I said, shown speed at Bristol. So I think he's actually quite underrated here. My model has him undervalued, to win, but it also has Bubba undervalued to win. So I like capturing the two of them and pairing them 16-1. Plus, we get a throw in there with Riley Herbst as well. The last time I said we get a throw in for a winning team bet was when I said Team Penske at Gateway, and Austin Cindric ended up being the throw in that ended up winning. So, you never know when those throw ins can help as well. But really banking on Bubba and Tyler Reddick here at 16-1.
Yeah, hey, Riley Herbst is there. I'm just kidding. But I think, again, we go back to talking about the speed for this year, and Bubba's fast. I mean, he has been fast on every type of racetrack that we go to. And is it Denhike? Denhike, I think is how he pronounces it. The crew chief I think it's Charles Denhike is how he pronounces his name, but he was with Christian Eckes last year, and that Christian Eckes Denhike combo was really good everywhere. And I'm no shade to Booty Barker. Booty Barker is awesome, but this combo is it's firing on all cylinders right now. And where was Eckes really good at? I mean, he was really good on the short tracks. Where is Bubba typically good at? These short type of racetracks. So I don't think it's a fluke that Bubba's running really good. I mean, I don't even hate the idea of betting Bubba at 25-1 to win this race. I wish it had a little bit more value, but I mean, now we're getting Reddick too. And gosh, if they don't go for stage points multiple times last year at Bristol and stay out, and he got in some trouble where he got spun around and he tried to win a stage by staying out. They gave up so much track position last year. And I don't know if we necessarily see that as much. It kind of worked out for them in the long run, but the short run, man, they were terrible at Bristol last year because they just kept forfeiting their track position.
Yeah, you mentioned current form, speed this year. If we just look at non-drafting ovals, so removing Atlanta, removing Daytona, and removing the road course at Coda. Driver rating, Tyler Reddick is third this year on average driver rating on non-drafting ovals. Bubba Wallace, 8th. Now, if we remove DNFs from those as well, so anytime a driver had a DNF, just don't count that race, and then average those, Tyler Reddick drops to 5th because some guy named Kyle Larson jumps ahead of him, because Larson's had a couple DNFs this year, but Bubba Wallace actually jumps to 6th. So, we're getting two top 6-ish, 8-ish speed drivers this year at tracks that, a track that theoretically should be very good for both of them. Now, again, some performance issues with Reddick here, but I always think he can recapture that form here because he's shown it in the past. He's shown it in Xfinity, and he's shown it, with Richard Childress Racing in his rookie year. So 23-11 to win, 16-1. A little bit longer shot there for my stage 2 pick. Stevie's stage 2 pick was Chris Buescher, top 10 finish, plus 130. So we've completed stage 2. We'll drive through stage 3 and complete the race. And as always, end up in victory lane with our combined victory lane pick. And it's a driver we've already talked about. It's a driver we're very high on. Stevie, what do we have for victory lane?
Yeah, we're going to a group bet. We see these every once in a while from me and you, but sometimes they just show a lot of value. And you'd found this one and you sent it to me, and I was like, oh, I'm showing value on this one too, so let's roll with it. It's Gibbs, Ross Chastain, Kyle Busch against Chris Buescher in Group B on DraftKings. It's plus 300. We already kind of told you all why we like Chris Buescher, but I think it's more of we're just really high on RFK in general. Ross Chastain, really hit or miss. Gibbs this year has been really slow outside of the last couple weeks. So current form, everything kind of goes towards Chris Buescher. I mean, Kyle Busch's pit crew can't put a race together. He's having issues. So I think Buescher should probably be like plus 220 in this spot. So we're getting really good value at plus 300. So, I mean, you found this one. Kudos to you. I'm all in with you. I like it a lot.
Yeah, so Chris Buescher to win Group B 3-1 at DraftKings, and I do have Chris Buescher as the nominal favorite in this group over Ross Chastain, barely, and then a little bit further down, not much, but a little bit, I have Ty Gibbs, and then Rowdy bringing up the rear on this group. But odds-wise, that's not where it stands. Chris Buescher is actually the longest odds of the 4 drivers in this group, which is pretty crazy to me. If all 4 drivers had an equal chance of winning this, a 25% chance 3-1 would be break even. But again, both you and I make Chris Buescher the favorite here. So definitely should be shorter than 3-1 in this group. So I love getting 3-1 on Chris Buescher to finish as the top driver in group. I believe it's C at DraftKings. I think I said B, but I believe it's group C over at DraftKings. So that is our victory lane pick. And that is going to do it for the Food City 500 episode of Running Hot, Action Network's Motorsports Betting Podcast. If you'd like to tell some of the bets we discussed today, look for the quick slip link in the podcast and video description. Go to actionnetwork.com/bet now. We'll be back, not next weekend, as the Cup Series is off for Easter weekend, but the weekend after that, we'll be back in 2 weeks for the Jack Links 500 at Talladega Super Speedway. On behalf of my co-host, Stephen Young, thanks again for listening, and we'll see you back in a couple weeks here on Running Hot from Action Network.